Greg, one of the things that Charlie did, I don't know what happened early on in his life, but at 18, was when he enthusiastically created Turning Point.
Yeah,
With the goal of going into the lion's den of these college campuses.
It's so funny because I didn't have that when I was in college. So the amazing thing about Turning Point was that it connected you with other people that may think like you, or even not even like that, but might not fit in with the orthodoxy of the left-wing campus. So it wasn't like, hey, we're all going to become right-wingers. It was more like there are other people like you here that may not agree with what's going on, and he reminds me of the late Andrew Breitbart in the sense that it was like, why not? Why not do this? Why not challenge this leftist orthodoxy? Doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. I don't know if he was that ambitious because, I don't know if you could foresee something this big happening. But I remember, speaking at these events and just walking around and going like, I could not imagine having this when I was in college. It's insane. And how lucky.
Did you need it then? Or do you think things have changed so much that he was a part of that?
Oh, I think that, well, when I was in school, there was only one side. I went to Berkeley and you kept your mouth shut.
Yeah.
So what he did was he was able to give students the confidence to sit in a classroom and challenge a professor when he says America is the land of the oppressed, the genociders, and this kid will raise his hand and go, maybe I disagree. It goes back to those three words that I always use. Well, he created a mechanism to share the risk. And you saw, this was a machine that literally shared the risk. You're not alone. You're going to meet all these people that are just like you. And it's going to be easier.
Yeah. There's a lot of power in that. I was going to bring this up, Jesse. I'll give you a couple of statistics just to have a transition here. So he has a nationwide campus reach. 3,500 high school and college campuses have a Turning Point chapter. There are 750,000 student activists. He has 300 full-time staff, 85 million online followers. Wow. And you can see also that in the UK and Europe, this is also starting to take a hold a little bit there. Its revenue was $81 million. They had things like the Professor Watch List initiative that would try to find a way to root out professors that were discriminating against conservative views or promoting just liberal ideologies. That's really an incredible thing for somebody that young.
Yeah, he would smile if I said that he was the greatest community organizer in American history, but he is. You name the chapters and the amount of people that he inspired at that level. He is credited with sometimes winning Arizona last election. And what he did on the ground in places like Michigan, the president owes him big time. And the president is obviously incredibly grateful. He's so much more than a campus guy. This guy was walking in the halls of power for the last several years. He had huge amounts of input on policy, one of the greatest communicators of the generation, tight with the president, with Vance, with Don Jr. It can't be understated how big of a figure he was in this movement. And the fact that they took out a lieutenant with a bullet makes me so angry. And Greg is so right. Two men, Breitbart and Kirk, were taken way too early. And it feels like a piece of America was taken. This guy loved this country so much. He dedicated his entire life to this job. Charlie never took vacation. I never knew him to take vacation. He always was working. And the fact that he went in, as you mentioned, to these college campuses, he went into the belly of the beast. And he knew these campuses were the kind of the cauldron of anti-Americanism. And he went right in and he watched the professors. And he went right in And he galvanized the students to stand up for themselves and push back and use logic and their gut instincts to change the course of history. And he did. And now it's cool to be conservative when you're young. I mean, completely flipped the script.
I was thinking about that the other day. Like, who would have thought that we'd become mainstream? He apparently, I got this from my assistant Kate. He said, Charlie Kirk said he always felt like a bit of an outsider in high school because he was open about his conservative views while most of his peers leaned left. And when he started Turning Point USA Kennedy, he was 18 years old. He worked from his parents' garage making cold calls to raise money. And this was the mission statement: identify, educate, train, and organize students to promote the principles of freedom, free markets, and limited government. And we are watching here live, Kennedy, the flag being lowered to half-mast in honor of Charlie Kirk's life. This was at the order of the President of the United States, who issued the first statement after Charlie Kirk's death had been confirmed. And these flags will fly at half-mast until 6 p.m. on Sunday evening this weekend. Kennedy, more thoughts?
It's stunning. So, yeah, I'm going to go back to Socrates, who did the very same thing and challenged the bureaucrats and the status quo and those in power because he knew that through using skepticism and philosophy, he would come to the right answer. And he paid with his life. He was sentenced to death. And who was shocked into a career in philosophy to continue the fight? Plato. So there's an entire generation of people who have heard Charlie Kirk's message. They have interfaced with him on campus. They have been moved into action at Turning Point USA events. And now is a time for them to be galvanized to the next stage of their life and take the movement into the next generation and the next direction. I remember being on the Bob Dole 96 Hours to Victory tour and asking one of his strategists, a Republican strategist, why don't you reach out to younger people? Because I knew I couldn't have been alone. At the time, I was a Republican while I was on MTV, and I was very skeptical of the Clintonian Democrats and the way our direction would lurch leftward if left unchecked. And he said at the time, kids don't vote Republican. You know, what's the point of wasting the time and money? And Charlie Kirk found that philosophy unacceptable. And that's why he is a great American inventor, because this is how the Industrial Revolution went forth, was because of tinkerers and inventors who saw problems and chose to solve them themselves. And he did that from a very young age because he knew that he wasn't the only one who was being ignored. He knew he wasn't the only one who was being shepherded into groupthink. So he decided to make a change because he knew under the right circumstances, with the right message, it would become a conflagration.
And let me just read this to you. The RNC has released the following statement on the shooting that took the life of Charlie Kirk. It says, Charlie Kirk was a father, husband, and dedicated patriot who spent his life defending conservative values and inspiring young Americans. Our hearts break for his wife, children, loved ones, and countless supporters across the country. The horrifying violence at Utah Valley University that took the life of Charlie Kirk is utterly appalling. Republicans and Democrats alike must stand united in condemning this brutality that has no place in America. In just a moment, we're going to have a chance to talk with Paul Morrow because we have a situation on our hands where the shooter is still at large. And we'll get an update on that and also the broader discussion with him. I do have actually here a statement from President Obama. Let me read it here. President Obama posted this on X. We don't yet know what motivated the person who shot and killed Charlie Kirk, but this kind of despicable violence has no place in our democracy. Michelle and I will be praying for Charlie's family tonight, especially his wife, Erica, and their 2 young children. Harold, before we talk to Paul.
When I was in high school, in D.C., a big club on my campus was called the Government Club. And we were divided in liberals and conservatives. And frankly, I didn't fully understand what those terms meant. I knew what the vernacular and what the political dialogue at the moment was. And I was president of the club for the liberals. And my friend was the president of the conservatives. We had some of the greatest conversations. Our friendship flourishes today. I'm godfather to one of his kids. We don't agree on everything. I would hope that tonight, as an appreciation and a salute to Charlie, if you are around a family member or a friend or a coworker whom you have disagreements with, politically or for that matter on any matters. Find something before you leave them this afternoon or this evening that you agree on and hug. Let us understand the debate is good. I've shared around this table, when I was in law school, we'd have these great raging debates in con law and at the constitutional law. And I would take my friends that were on one side and take the friends that were on my side, and I'd have dinner. My dad was kind enough to buy the dinners on Wednesday night there on State Street. And we'd sit, and the only rule was that if someone said something that deconstructed or defeated or undermined your argument, you had to concede. Not stop, but concede and talk about your answers and the things that you wanted to see happen. And we had some great discussions, great debates, and some of those guys, not some of those guys, many of those people, not all of them, remain great friends of mine. And we still have these conversations today. One of the things that exercise taught me, and I think one of the things that Charlie taught those who agreed with him, who didn't agree with him, he fought valiantly and with dignity with lots of words and no weapons, and that should be the message today as well, is that if you're an active thinker, if you seek to be smart and seek to be informed, then you'll never be a static or stationary thinker. And what I draw from all of this is this low, unfortunate, tragic place we've descended to as a country where we think violence. Someone, I think it might have been you, Greg, that said, not you, or maybe you, Jesse, that said that you shoot him and you kill him and you take his ideas. You won't take his ideas off the table by shooting him, or for that matter, shooting someone you disagree with or trying to kill someone you disagree with. We're the greatest country in the world, and you talked about the foundation that Kennedy, you talked about Socrates and Plato, and everyone around the table has. One thing I'll leave you with, we talk about Socrates and Plato, no one ever asked during that era who was the richest person. They wanted to know who was the most thoughtful, who had the best ideas, and who was willing not just to have an open mind, but who was willing not only to debate, but to make things better. Again, my prayers and condolences to young Erica Kirk and her family.
Before we go to Paul Morrow, I don't think that that Paul Ryan would mind me sharing this story. I was once at a bar where there was a small event, and Paul Ryan, the former speaker, and Charlie Kirk were having a good conversation and just sitting around having a drink. And these younger people that worked at the bar came up, and they really wanted to get a picture. But not with Paul Ryan. They wanted a picture with Charlie Kirk. And Paul Ryan took pictures for each of them on their phones. Paul Ryan taking the pictures of those young people with Charlie Kirk. And it was a sweet memory that just came to mind.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.